You're listening to the newest podcast in Goshen County, Why It Matters, brought to you exclusively by Goshen Economic Development. We'll dive into the reasons why economic development is so important in our communities and talk one-on-one with members who explain the benefits that economic development provides. Now here's your host, Goshen Economic Development CEO Braden Konar.
Hey there, this is Braden Konar, CEO of Goshen Economic Development. Today on Why It Matters, I have Matt Larsen, CEO of Vistabeam, based out of Scottsbluff, Nebraska, with me today. And so, Matt, thanks for being here.
You bet. Nice to be able to come up across the border for a little while.
Yeah. So Vistabeam's a great company. They do work in Goshen County, and so I will just give the listeners what is Vistabeam? What do you guys do? What are you doing?
So Vistabeam's a broadband provider. We typically have been using fixed wireless, but we are also starting to do fiber. We just turned on our first few residential fiber customers this week in Chapel, Nebraska, and we're planning to build out a lot more towns with fiber. But primarily we're doing fixed wireless. We've been doing this since 2004, so almost 20 years. In fact, the first three towers we turned on, one was in Gearing, one was in Minutair, and the third one was here in Torrington. So we actually have had customers in Torrington since 2004. And the ISP that I had before this actually went back to 98. We had customers on dial-up in Torrington. So have a long history in the community. And, this is one of our favorite places is to, get up to Torrington. I'm real familiar with it. My dad was a cattle buyer, so I spent a lot of time at the sale barn up here and running around eastern Wyoming, western Nebraska, and northern Colorado. That's the same territory we serve with our internet now. So it's got a lot of history with the area and, just really enjoy being out here.
Yeah, you guys have really expanded. I mean, you've expanded further into Wyoming and then Front Range of Colorado, Eastern Colorado, all over the state of Nebraska. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So, like I said, when we started out, we had just those three towers and now we have over 300 spread out across 3 states. So we cover a big chunk of western Nebraska and then southwest Nebraska down to McCook. We're in northern Colorado. We're over around Walden and Jackson County, and then in the northeast part of the state. And then we recently acquired Front Range Internet. So now we have service in, kind of from Cheyenne all the way down through Wellington, Fort Collins, Loveland. And then in Wyoming, our coverage is kind of on the eastern side of the state. So we're in Niobrara County, Goshen County, Platte County, down around Laramie and Albany County. And then we also have some stuff in Natrona. So we go up as far as Casper in one direction, and then down to, kind of Laramie, Medicine Bow, and all that along with Goshen County.
Yeah, it's crazy. Your service area is huge. So you talk about fixed wireless, you talk about running fiber. Give the listeners a quick pros and cons of both. We all know, most people associate internet with plugging it into an outlet at home and boom, you have internet. And so can you explain that to the listener? Well,
so now I think a lot of people, it's more like, I was at a conference yesterday and somebody was like, well, how do you get your internet? Well, I get it from the Wi-Fi, and so probably the vast majority of people are getting their internet through some kind of wireless connection, whether it's in their house or whether it's being broadcast to their house. So the biggest difference between fiber and fixed wireless is basically capable of going across long distances. So for example, in, the northern parts of Niobrara County or the northern parts of Goshen County, we've got customers that might be 7 or 8 miles away from the nearest tower. And we have places in Niobrara County where cell phones don't work. So they actually use the Wi-Fi at their house going through our wireless internet connection to make their phone calls. And that's, one of the biggest differences is fixed wireless can go a lot of different places. The speed on it has changed. When we started out, it was about a meg was about the most you could get through it. So now in Torrington, we actually have 500 meg available for residential. And then we have gigabit available in the business district with a different kind of fixed wireless. Fiber's great technology too. We have our own fiber. A few years ago, during when the pandemic started, CARES Act funding came out, and we used some of that funding to build our own fiber across the border from Nebraska into Torrington. So we actually have a fiber connection coming into Torrington that we use to feed all of our facilities here, and we're bringing in second fiber that goes back to I-25. So we're going to have a giant ring. So if there's an outage on one side or the other, then it's going to turn around and go the other direction. So we've got a backup. So we're really big on using the fiber to feed the fixed wireless. And our focus up to this point has been typically going into areas outside of town, outside of city limits. And now we're starting to look at going into the towns with both competitive fixed wireless and also doing some fiber in towns where it makes sense. But that's it's a crazy business. It has changed constantly, and it's been a lot of fun to kind of try and keep up with all that.
Yeah, I mean, broadband. Lisa Johnson was on this program a while back, and we got onto the broadband thing because LaGrange, Wyoming has fiber internet in LaGrange, and I'm sure you service kind of down that direction. But broadband has come a long ways since 2018, 2019, especially in Goshen County. I think I said that there was a silver lining of COVID, and that was a huge broadband build out across the nation in rural areas. Yeah. And so, I mean, for you guys, like, to be able to offer internet service wirelessly in very rural portions of eastern Wyoming, western Nebraska, northern Colorado, like, that's huge.
Yeah, COVID really kind of pushed a lot of things about 5 years into the future is kind of the way I look at it. We had trends towards more people like starting to work from home, and students that were able to do some of their learning remotely, and then different new applications like telehealth and digital skill training that can be done on your own outside of the school system. Those were all trends that were kind of starting to develop, and then COVID just poured gas on them, and they all just took off. So broadband went from being something that was like, yeah, it'd be nice to have a good connection, to everybody has to have a good connection. And we just saw a tremendous amount of growth. There were a lot of people, I think, were using broadband that was slower or maybe not quite as reliable, and they had to step up. So we had, right before the pandemic hit, we had done a lot of expansion, a lot of building out capacity within our network in anticipation of growth. And then when the pandemic hit, it just blew up. And so it feels like we just got on the mouse wheel and just kept going faster and faster. But I can tell you, from like 2018 to now, I think we went from like 15 employees to 50.
Wow.
In a short period of time. And really, really bumped up, the amount of customer service that we could do, added a lot more crews. I think we used to have one tower crew, and I think we've got the ability to put like 4 tower crews out there now. We've added crews that can do, we're doing some of our own fiber work now, and, just really, really stepped everything up. But the pandemic, like I said, it just kind of pushed everything forward. And I think that's a great thing for rural areas, because being able to have good broadband in an area is kind of a key. You can attract people that are telecommuters or people that work for a bigger company, make a bigger salary. They don't necessarily put the same kind of load on your community as you would if you had to go out and recruit some business that has like 50 jobs or whatever. They might be low cost jobs, or you might not have enough housing. But telecommuting, like, really, I think that's going to work to the advantage of rural areas like this. I just got back from spending some time in Dallas earlier this week, and every time I go to the city, it's like, I'm so glad to be out of it. I'm so glad I don't have to deal with the traffic. I'm so glad I don't have to deal with how expensive it is, in some of the towns, and just some of the issues that we see in urban areas. These are things we can use to our advantage by having good broadband, having really good quality of life in rural areas. I think is going to help our areas grow and prosper.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And so I guess just switching gears a little bit, this segment's called Why It Matters. So I do know that you used to sit on the Economic Development Board in Scottsbluff, I think for Twin City Development, correct? And so being in your position as the CEO of Vistabeam and having that background in economic development, I mean, broadband connectivity is probably priority 1A when it comes to the economic development of an area.
Well, economic development is, there are a lot of variables that go into that equation. But if you don't have good broadband, it's kind of like an algebra deal. It has a zero at the end. It doesn't really, you can do all you want on the other side, but if you don't have that piece, you're not going to be successful, because now broadband is such an important enabling technology for so many things. Now, having good broadband alone is not going to solve your economic issues, but you really need to have it to be able to build on top of it and build on the other strengths and advantages of your community. So it's definitely part of the factors that come into play when you're looking at trying to build out more growth and more development within your community. And I think the other thing that's important to consider with economic development that I'd learned during my time was being able to really help your existing businesses grow, because we have a lot of creative and innovative people in our communities. And I think that sometimes economic development can get really focused on trying to bring in like these big fish or these big wins from other places. I'm a big believer in trying to grow who you already have locally. You know, you look at our example. We started, with 5 employees back in 2004. And now we're at 50. Well, those jobs grew up, and I can tell you that the employees we have deep roots here. They love this area. This is where they want to be. And it's really hard to try and we've had some success recruiting individual people from other areas to move out here. And it's crazy. I've got some people that come out here and they just love it. It changed their lives to come out here and be out of, some of the kind of semi-toxic environments that you see in other parts of the country or even other parts of the world. We've had, one of my best subcontractors actually originally from Peru and has been working with us for like 16 years. So it's, this is a great place. If you can find people that really want to be here, then it's having those tools and everything to kind of get people to come in and grow it. I like the idea of trying to grow like one business or one person at a time and build that, build that economic wall there that's going to be really solid and hopefully something that lasts for a long time and continues to help the community thrive.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that was perfect. I mean, it was, it's great that you like I said, you've had the experience, you've sat on the Economic Development Board in Scottsbluff, and, they're seeing great things happen right now. And so, yeah, I think that perspective is phenomenal. So, well, Matt, I appreciate your time, and, thank you for Vistabeam and investing in Goshen County. And like I said, I appreciate your time, and thanks for coming over and visiting with me this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.